My stepfather broke both of my legs. I'm Kelsey Briggs, and this is my story. I was born on December 28, 2002 in the United States. My mother's name is Ray Dawn Smith and my father is Lance Briggs. During my mother's pregnancy, they decided to separate. In 2004, my mother met Michael Lee Porter and they quickly moved in together with Michael's 2 daughters from a previous relationship. Hospital visits started very early for me and many bruises began to appearing all over my small body. My mother took me to my father, who noticed many bruises while giving me a bath. He immediately took me to the hospital and contacted social services, who found signs of abuse. My father contacted my mother and asked her questions, but she did not understand what was going on. In 2005, my custody was taken away from my mother and I was placed in the care of my paternal grandmother, Katie Briggs. Despite this, my mother still had the right to see me from time to time. One day when my grandmother came to pick me up, I had a bruise between my eyes. My mother explained that I had bumped into a piece of furniture. Another time, she said that I had twisted my ankle. But when I was taken to the hospital, I still had bruises on my body. My mother dropped me off at my grandmother's, who noticed that I was barely walking. On April 18, 2005, my mother married Michael Porter, and as days went by, it became increasingly evident that I still couldn't walk. My mother took me back to the hospital and that's when doctors discovered that I had both of my tibias fractured. When I spoke to a social worker, I said that Papa Mike hurt my feet. The doctor explained to my mother that my legs had been broken with great force. On May 2nd, my custody was taken away from my mother and grandmother, both suspected of abuse. On June 15th, my custody was returned to my mother, but social services continued to closely monitor her. On October 11, 2005, while I was with my mother, Michael asked Ray to pick up his daughters from school. When she returned from the school, she found an ambulance outside the house and realized that I was not breathing. I was declared dead at just 2.5 years old. The autopsy revealed that there had been an abdominal trauma that caused internal bleeding. I also had several bruises on my arms, belly, back, and legs, and I had also been raped. One of Michael's daughters stated that her father was not the same when my mother was around and that he regularly hit my head against the wall. My mother was sentenced to 27 years in prison for failure to assist a person in danger, and Michael Porter was sentenced to only 30 years in prison. Thanks for listening to my story.